I think this is a perfect moment to just stop and say, when it comes to suffering and evil, without giving just a glib answer, and just after what we heard today with Josh, evil is very personal many times. And so for me, I'm trying to listen to see, is somebody just asking a theoretical question that's, like a smokescreen, because they're going to answer something or ask something that keeps putting off the issue of facing God, like Josh was talking about. But if somebody suffered and they're suffering through things, I want to listen and find and get deeper to see what it is that they're affected by. We live in a fallen world. I mean, really, you can't really understand the world without understanding the gospel. Cornelius Van Til once talked about, he said, you don't really understand evil without understanding the Bible, because it is a biblical term. So actually, people have to borrow the Bible to describe what the world is like. The great thing about the Bible is it not only tells us that God tells us what evil is. We know what evil is by God, what his definition is. He denounces it. He says, don't do it. At the cross, he defeated it. And then one day he will destroy it. So evil will one day be gone. When it comes to earthquakes, Jesus talked about them. Jesus said there's going to be earthquakes. There's going to be things. So here's the cataclysm of a planet that started out perfect, or started out as God intended it, and now it's fallen. And he says that because of sin, it's gone all the way to creation. And creation groans for the manifestation of the sons of God. So I think when it comes, I'm trying to it's hard to answer theoretically in one sense, because I usually sit and figure out what it is this person is trying to ask. What is their motive? But I do think this. I think that understanding evil, understanding God's intention. I love what Hugh Ross, a physicist, said. He said that God, and I think he was maybe borrowing a little of C.S. Lewis. He said God, in order to allow free will, allowed the option for evil. In order for God to truly be loved, he allowed the option for evil. I feel like I'm in a seminary exam and my homiletics professor is about to tell me, you're wrong, or my hermeneutics professor. God had to allow the option for evil. But his intention was to allow evil. In order to allow there to be a choice, he allowed the option for evil, or the choice, to be made. But his ultimate intention was, and this is what helps me so much, is that God allowed evil for this brief moment called time, only so it could bring it out, destroy it, and then live forever with us in eternity without the presence of evil. The issue comes up about, well, somebody's recently talking about, does everybody go to heaven? Well, can you imagine if we take all of this and just move it into eternity? That's not going to be heaven. I mean, when I came in through the little narrow gate of an airport, and, that can be an appearance of safety, but if somebody walks into that safe environment with one little bomb, it only takes one little bomb to ruin your flight. And if they walk into that environment that is supposedly secure, you don't have security anymore. And if sin gets into heaven, it ceases to be heaven. So God has allowed the possibility of evil so he can destroy it and one day live forever with us without the presence of evil. So again, his ultimate motive is love. So,
two things in that. One, in the book of Romans, Paul says that the fall was so great it even affected creation. And that even the creation is crying out for redemption. And every time I think you hear earthquakes or anything, it's part of creation crying out for redemption. Second, the promise through what you just shared is this: he will cause all things to work together for the good. In my life, he has taken something that was very evil, and he's really brought it out for the good. Even that I'm able to share it with others and help others deal with it is a marvelous consequence of my having going through that. And I thank God for it.
And one thing that's one of the most encouraging verses is this time where there's a woman whose child has died. And when she encounters Jesus, Jesus didn't give her a theological response, but he wept. And I think it's a beautiful picture to recognize that in many ways evil isn't supposed to make sense, as Os Guinness would say, because it's an intruder into our world. It doesn't belong here, so it's not supposed to make sense. But the response of God to evil is to sacrifice himself out of love for humanity to restore creation. I think that's a challenge for me, because even though I can't explain evil completely, it challenges me to go into the world and embrace people's pain and bring healing where they've encountered evil.